Greetings from the kitchen, folks. Just a few words before the film begins today to say that this is one that didn't go right. This is a cider where I did it the wrong way. Fortunately, I've managed to kind of rescue it, and what I've ended up with is fairly decent, although it doesn't necessarily do what it says on the tin when it comes to taste. Anyway, watch the film, get the story, enjoy. Good afternoon from the kitchen, folks. Today, I'm going to have a go at making a Banoffe cider. So here's my key ingredients. So it's a cider, so apple juice from concentrate using the turbo cider method. A bit of water because I need to make some tea for tannins. Bananas and toffees. So obviously bananas are bananas. I'm using Werther's original toffees. They're hard toffees. They should dissolve okay in the water. Additive wise, they don't look like they contain anything too harmful to the brew. I've got some brewing sugar to increase the alcohol by volume slightly, and that's 250 grams, and I'm going to use some pectolase because it's going to need that to break down the cloudiness which the bananas will give it. So first thing first, 4 tea bags into the pan, and then I'm going to add to the tea bags about 1/3 of a litre of water, and I'm going to make a nice strong tea now. And I want that to come to the boil. So today's fermentation vessel is simply a Tesco plastic 5 litre water bottle. I've taken a drill and made a hole in the top so that the airlock fits in. It goes snug together. There's no leaks of gas. This does actually work well for fermenting. So while I'm waiting for my tea to brew, I'm going to get my apples into my fermentation vessel. So I did say that this is a turbo cider, and that means that you use apple juice from concentrate or apple juice rather than apples. It's quicker and it's easier. That's your turbo. If you want to read more about turbo ciders, have a look at the Facebook group Turbo Ciders for All. You'll get some good inspiration from the recipes that people come up with in there. So that's 1 litre in, and litre number 2. And litre number 3. This really is easy cider making. We are approaching autumn and my 2 apple trees are absolutely laden, and I will be making cider from apples at that point. It's a lot more labour intensive. So that tea looks like it's brewing and stewing to me. I'm going to mash the tea bags to get as much of the flavour and tannins out. The tannins gives the end product a bit more body and a bit of flavour. They're not always necessary, and it depends what kind of brew I'm doing, but because I'm doing this brew today with the toffee and banana, I think that this will help it. So I'm going to get my tea bags out of here now, and I'm going to squash them to extract as much juice as possible. I'm just using a potato masher to hold them. That gets everything out that I can, so they go in there for the garden. Tea bags make good compost additives. So my next ingredient to go into the tea is my Werther's Originals. So despite their delicious butter candiness, Werther's Originals are annoying because they wrap every single one in this plastic, which is just not necessary. Anyway, Werther's Original, pan, drop. And that's what I'm going to do with all of these now. So that's all the Werther's Originals in there. I'm going to pop the lid on, and I now want these to dissolve. So after a few minutes they've already begun to break up. They've gone really sticky and clumpy on the bottom. I'm just going to keep moving them so they don't stick and burn. So that is now a pan of tea with a packet of melted Werther's Originals in, all nicely melted. Right, my bananas. Let's have a look at them. Lovely stuff. I'm simply just going to chop these into slices. And again, just into slices. So that's going to go into there. Simply a case of pick and drop, pick and drop, pick and drop. There's always a victim. So my banana and my toffee is now going to come together, and hopefully this banana will break down a little bit. I'm going to put the lid on so that the steam and the heat builds up inside there. So the bananas are now mushing up nicely, and I'm going to help them mush with the potato masher. I want this to break down into small pieces. I could just chuck the lot in the blender, in all honesty, but I'm trying to cut down on washing up. Okay, this is now broken down enough. There are no really big pieces left in there, just some fibrey bits, but that's fine. I'm now going to add to this the brew sugar. And that will dissolve very easily and very nicely. And in fact, I don't need the heat on now. I'm going to turn the heat off. And I'm just going to let this now sit with the heat off, and for all the sugar to dissolve and everything to just mix together nicely. And it will also allow the temperature to cool down a bit before I add it into the cider. So here's my sweet banana and toffee tea. This needs to go into the fermentation vessel. And it's as easy as this. A bit sloppy. Yeah, it does make a little bit of splash. Unfortunate, never mind. Now you'll note that that's completely changed the appearance of the cider now. It's gone cloudy and brown. Before it was quite clear. I'm going to break down that cloudiness now with a nice generous round teaspoonful of pectolase. And I'm just going to wash my funnel around with a bit more apple juice and slightly fill the demijohn a bit more. This will form quite a big krausen, so I'm not going to overfill it. In fact, that's enough. I've got to take some out now anyway for the gravity, and that won't go back in. I'm going to pour some of this into my hydrometer flask so I can take the original gravity. Now it's currently too warm for me to do that, so I'm just going to leave this to one side and then finish the cider off. I'm now going to add my yeast. I'm using Cross My Loaf cider yeast, and I'm going to add the equivalent of about a heaped teaspoon. I'm not measuring it, I'm just going to pour it. I've done this enough times to know what that looks like. I'm now going to add the airlock back on, and this is obviously a screw top which I've drilled through. Now, if I need to move this demijohn, which I invariably do, I'll take the lid off first with the airlock. Otherwise it will act like a lung and suck the water in from the airlock, and I don't want that to happen. Anyway, there's nothing I can do at the minute now. I'm waiting for the liquid in the hydrometer flask to cool down to 20 degrees. Once that's happened, I'll take the gravity, write that information on here, and then that's that brew done for today. So I'll be back in a few minutes time, probably about half an hour. Okay, I've got the liquid cooled down to 20 degrees, so let's pop the hydrometer in there. Very nice and buoyant. And I am looking at an original gravity of dead on 1.070, 1070. I just need to give this a little try, I'm so curious. That is gorgeous, wow. Now, the toffee flavour isn't huge, the creaminess is definitely there. And what I might end up doing at bottling is back flavouring. I've got some Mangrove Jack's toffee flavour, and I might end up putting some of that in at bottling, but the banana-iness and the sweetness is really apparent, so fingers crossed. Okay, I've now got this in my utility room in place, along with its brethren. So the next film you see from me will be when fermentation is over, and that will either be clearing or bottling. So I'll catch you then. Evening from the kitchen, folks. This evening I'm going to be racking off my Banoffe cider. Let's have a look at it. So there it is in the fermentation vessel. It's been in there now for 1 month exactly. It's got a lot of sediment at the bottom. It's got a layer of trub on top. I want to get rid of this and get rid of this and just keep this nice bit in the middle. I'm not going to clear this with finings. I want it to be transferred into this next demijohn, and then I'm going to leave it and hopefully it will begin to settle. So it's bung unscrewed. I've got the siphoning tube held in place with this clip. The bottom of the tube is just above the sediment line, and as I siphon, it's got a filter to prevent any of those bits of trub getting from there into there. Let's do it. And in we go, and immediately a load of rubbish has come through. All the stuff that I don't want, but the filter's doing a great job at stopping it from getting in. So you can see there's quite a bit of sediment come through, but the filter will stop that from getting in there. Anyway, just while I'm waiting for that to filter through, I thought I'd have a little taster because I'm curious, and also I want to know if I need to back flavour this as well. So let's have a little go. It's a lot drier than I expected, but what's really odd is the creaminess from the Werther's original is there. Banana flavour's not really doing it. It's not showing at all. I'm quite surprised. It's like a dry cider with a creamy edge. So yeah, I'm going to back flavour this. Okay, so here it is after racking in the new demijohn. There's considerably less of it, but that goes with the territory. When you put in fruit in there, you always end up with a lot of sediment. So I'm going to leave this now for a few days, maybe a week, and see how it looks after that. At the minute, there are some little floaty bits on top which have got through the mesh filter. I don't know to be concerned or not. I mean, those floaty bits will be bits of banana, basically. I might just have to live with them because I don't want to clear this with finings because I think I'll kill the yeast off if I do that, or drag it all to the bottom, and then it won't sparkle, and sparkle's more important. So my next film will be in a week or so when it comes to hopefully bottling. See you then, folks. Afternoon from the kitchen, folks. It's my Banoffee cider bottling day. Let's have a look at it. So here it is, and it looks a bit murk. It doesn't look great, I've got to admit. And in terms of efficiency, look at all that headspace. It's really upsetting, but never mind. This is what happens when you put fruit in a demijohn with cider. You end up with a lot of trub, and therefore it's not that efficient. Lesson learned for me, definitely. I don't think I'll do it this way again. Anyway, it is a bit murky. It's got more murky since I've moved it up here. I'm going to live with that because I think if I put finings in to try and clear it, then I've got no chance of it being a sparkling cider. So I'm going to live with the fact that it's going to be murky and sparkling, which I think is better than clear and flat. So I'm going to begin by adding a good heaped one of these into each 750ml bottle. This is just standard household sugar. It will cause a little fermentation in the bottle, which will, as a byproduct, create a little bit more CO2 and alcohol. And ultimately, the CO2 and the pressure that builds up is what will make this into a sparkling cider. Fingers crossed. So then it's bung out, siphoning tube in. I've got the tube held in place with this clip. The bottom of it's just above the sediment line. I will draw some sediment up, but that doesn't matter because the first bit that comes out is going into the hydrometer tube. Let's do it. And into the bottles we go. Right, so the flavour I've just got from that was dry. I mean, dry. This hasn't worked as a Banoffee cider, unfortunately. I mean, it's a learning process, this. So what I'm going to end up doing is basically back flavouring with banana and toffee flavouring. So it was pointless pretty much me making it the way I did do when I consider how I'm going to back flavour it afterwards. There you go, live and learn. So I'm going to back flavour it probably with Flavdrops, banana ones and toffee ones or something like that. So I could have just made apple juice and then back flavoured it. That would have been the easy way. I did it the hard way. I won't next time. I think we'll call it a day at that. I don't want all that rubbish in the bottom. So I've ended up with exactly 4,750 mils. So I need to take the final gravity of this. So in goes the hydrometer, and that has sank very nicely. And I am looking at a final gravity of 0.996. 0.996. So using the starting gravity and the finishing gravity, I'm going to work out the alcohol by volume. So the starting gravity was 1.070. I deduct from that the final gravity, which was 0.996, and that equals 0.074. And then I multiply this by 131.25, and that equals a final gravity of 9.7%, so it's basically a rocket fuel cider. So I'm going to get these four flavoured up now with some MyProtein Flavdrops. In all honesty, I can't believe I didn't do it this way in the first place. It's just so much easier, and I would have ended up with more in the demijohn. So for each 750ml bottle, I'm going to add 1 full pipette of banana. And I'm going to add 1 full pipette of toffee. So I need to add my bungs now. I've just softened these a little bit in hot water. There's not a lot of room on here actually, as you can see. Anyway, 1, 2. Oh, that one hurt. I should have put my glove on. 3, finally 4. Ow! Yeah, definitely painful. I've got the bungs in place. I need to add cages now to keep them in place, because when the yeast, which is in suspension in this, eats that bit of extra sugar that I put in, and it creates CO2, it creates pressure, and without the cage, whoo! So 1 down, 3 to go. You don't need to see that, boring. Right, I've got to label my bottle, so I'm just going to give them a rinse, get all that sticky off the outside. So I've made up a simple template for a label in Microsoft Word. I'm just going to print this off. So I'm just going to stick my labels on. I've rounded the ABV up to 9.8, 9.75, 9.8. I think that's fair, and there will be that extra little bit of fermentation that takes place within the bottle. And there they are. Okay, I've got my bottles conditioning on some temperature controlled shelves. So here are the bottles. The shelves are controlled by a small thermometer which is just behind that bottle there. Thermometer is connected to a thermostat plug. If the temperature drops below 19.5, it turns on the heater behind the shelves, and it's currently not on. And if it does drop below that, then the heater comes on until the temperature gets to 20.5 on that plug from the thermometer down there, and then it knocks off again. Nice and efficient way of keeping it at the right temperature for carbon. It's currently the first day of autumn, so this is going to need to be used definitely soon, but we're going through a little mini heat wave, so at the minute the temperature is staying reasonable. So I'll be back in a month's time when it comes to opening and tasting. Catch you then, folks. Reading from the kitchen, folks. It's my Banoffee cider opening night. What am I going to get from this one? Well, I'm hoping it's carbed. I can see that the bung has raised by about 2 millimeters. That would suggest to me that this has carbed. What it's going to be like, I don't know. I had such a mission making it. It was such a mess. I think I've rescued it. Let's just see. I want it to look good when I pour it, have a head, smell nice, but above all, taste nice. Let's see what happens. So I'm just getting the cage off. Am I going to get a pop? Oh, what a pop. And look at the vapour. Oh, it's excited. Let's get that poured. Look at that. Carbonation Nation. Come on, let's get busy with the fizzy. Way. Right. It smells like dry apple cider. That's the immediate smell that comes across. Definitely fizzy. Wow, that's enormously gassy. So gassy I couldn't really get a flavour. Let's try to sip this one. It's medium to medium sweet. I can't work out what flavour it is. I would not have guessed Banoffe. I would not in a million years have guessed this was a Banoffee cider. I would have said some sort of sweet cider, some sweet fruity cider maybe, but I wouldn't have guessed what. I mean, it's very pleasant, it's very drinkable. And I think it's more of a summer drink, in all honesty, than a winter drink. But yeah, very nice. I mean, carbonation, I have no complaints with that. It looks wonderful. It's fairly clear in the glass compared to what it was like before. And, it tastes nice. It just, I wouldn't say it tastes like Banoffee, that's the thing. So I think if I was going to do this again, I'd just use Flavdrops for toffee and for banana from the very beginning in the demijohn, and maybe at bottling stage as well. But anyway, I'm not disappointed with what I've ended up with. It was a bit of a mission, it was a bit of a mess, but I've ended up with something which is drinkable and tasty. So you know what, fair enough. Cheers folks, and I'll catch you on the next brew. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.